Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Chilling Neigh Podcast, your premier VGC podcast. My name is Rashil, aka Conkalonk. I'm joined by Sableye, Tommy Hayden, and our NAIC champion, Patrick Connors. How is it going, Patrick?
I'm doing, pretty good. NAIC went a lot better than I expected it to, so pretty happy. Definitely proud of the team and proud of the run. So I'm also happy to be on here. Very happy to be on Chilling Day. I think it's very fitting considering what I won with.
It's also, very much deserved. Now, like, not that it wouldn't have been deserved before, but like winning NAIC, like, you've now accomplished, I think, more than any of the three of us have.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah,
Well, more than
absolutely.
most players you'll walk into a room with.
Yes.
That's
Yeah,
fair enough. Yeah, I think I'll be able to say I'm the only international like champion in my like state, so that's gonna be pretty cool.
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
super cool. And so, just want to clarify, you're in Florida, right?
Yeah, I'm in Florida. I'm based out of Orlando.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Super stacked region there, with Riley and Brady and everyone, right?
Yeah, absolutely. They've bullied me, and they're part of the reason why I'm pretty okay now.
Yeah.
Makes sense, makes sense. Well, all right, let's dive on into it. So, if everyone was watching this past weekend, but Patrick actually piloted Calyrex Ice, so we love to see that, to NAIC win over Aurelian Sola, who has been one of easily the most
Crazy.
consistent players this year, has made to the finals and I believe three different majors this year,
Right.
oh, if not more. And so he has just been absolutely crushing it. And a huge, huge accomplishment to be beating him in finals. But I think let's kick it off here by starting and talking about your VGC background, Patrick.
So I started like back in Sword and Shield, just kind of playing in-game ranked ladder. I was inspired by like people like Cybertron's like videos, so I started doing just borrowing rental teams playing in-game ladder during COVID because I used to do like sports before I started doing college, which was around like 21, like 2021. And I wanted like some sort of competitive outlet aside from like, not being able to do sports anymore. So I picked up VGC in like 2021, just kind of casually started doing like in-game laddering and kind of did that for a while. And then around I think it was 2022, there was the in-game ladder was or in-game the in-person circuit was starting back up, and I started like trying to get more into VGC. Started doing like tournaments online, and we were supposed to have an Orlando regional, but due to some issues with our local government, weren't able to get it in Florida. So I had to wait till 2023 to do my first in-person tournament. But I made my first in-person debut at Orlando in 2023. I was running Dozo Geary, and I went 8-2. I piloted to an 8-2 run in Orlando for my first tournament, but I ended up placing
Yep.
36. I bubbled out of day two, and then after that, I had only, I guess, three other tournaments up to NAIC, including NAIC. I went to NAIC in Columbus last year. Was running like Pow Knight and Talonflame Tusk, like really terrible team, but went 5-3. Was definitely like not very proud of that run, but continue playing online, doing a lot of Limitless tours, grinding Limitless pretty much like every week. And then after that, they announced that locals were coming back like towards May of that year. Hit my first two locals. I bombed my first two and then won my third local. That gave me a lot of like motivation coming into 24 season, like 2023, 2024 season. And then I found out that Orlando local is going to be all the way down in April. So I just spent like, the beginning of the 2023 season just grinding locals, ended up winning a few of those, grinding a lot of limitless tours, had some pretty good results, had some wins in limitless tours, playing a ton of showdown. And this was all alongside starting my 1L year of law school. So it was a lot of balancing of like hobbies and like, my career. So
Yeah.
yeah, then Orlando came up in 20 or in April, which was right after I think I turned 22, which was the 8th. So I forget when April like the regionals happened. I think it was like in like the 14th or something. But went 9-6, had a decent run. I won my win in against Toller, which was really cool.
Yeah,
And then
kick it.
bomb day two. I was not ready for how day 2 was. I think my main takeaway, like from day 2, because I was pretty like devastated because I kind of had like maybe a little bit of kind of a general like chip on my shoulder about bubbling out of my first regional when I went 8-2, like thinking that I could have made a lot deeper of a run if I didn't bubble, and then eventually going back to Orlando, going 7-2, and then bombing day 2, going 9-6, almost kind of disheartening. But I did a lot of reflection. I changed the way I was prepping. I did some new things, and then I knew NAIC would be my last tournament of the year, so I think a lot of changes to how I approach the game, like my mental and just general prep, was definitely a lot of what led me to doing well at NAIC. So yeah, that's kind of like my general VGC journey, just constantly playing Pokemon and just trying to constantly improve while also just keeping up with my everyday life. But yeah.
That's
Bro, I'm
awesome.
so impressed by that answer.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
doing all that in law school is crazy, first
Yeah.
of all.
Yeah. Luckily NAIC, like, it was I had like the break between my finishing my 1L year and like just beginning my one summer class that I'm taking for law school before NAIC. So I had a ton of time to like just grind Showdown in between too, right before NAIC, which was really nice. Get a lot of like practice and data. But yeah, I also wasn't able to grind any Reg G locals or many Reg G tournaments because I had finals during all of May, so that was kind of rough. But yeah,
Are you going to Worlds?
yeah, I am
Yeah.
going to Worlds.
Okay.
So yeah,
I'm
we've
curious
figured out the
because
booking for that.
oh, perfect, perfect. I'm curious because you said you changed how you prepped and how you
Yeah,
were
I
like.
want to hear about that. I think that everyone
Okay.
does.
Love to hear that.
So I'm like a little stubborn when it comes to team building. Um, so the first thing I did was I actually got help. I started like reaching out to like friends in the local community, and for the first time ever in my VGC career, I let somebody else like give me feedback on my team, and like actually like tell me, hey, like I think this would be good, or I think like you should make this change. And they also helped me with a lot of practice. Shout out to Landon, Riku VGC. He was also grinding Limitless for me while I was doing finals, like giving me plenty of data on matchups and stuff like that. He didn't do as well at NAIC, but like without him, I would have not had this run. He was grinding locals for me. He was actually finishing really well at locals. He won a few Limitless tours as well in this time, with the exact same team that I'm running, and gave me plenty of data to work off, like team building and editing the team. So I want to shout out him. But that was like the biggest change I made when it came to actual prep. Was I like I've always had friends in the community, but for the most part, like I've always helped them, and I haven't let them help me, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So that was the biggest change I made. I let somebody else help me, and it paid off really well. So yeah, like Rillaboom. I did not believe in the Rillaboom selection for my team, but he kept on like grilling me. He was like, "You use Rillaboom well. Like Rillaboom will make like the Miraida matchup trivial. Like just run Rillaboom." And because of that, like, and he was right. It really did help me because I ran into a lot of Miraidon over my run. So yeah, he was totally right. Without him, I think the team would have looked different. I probably would have just run the Ryan Haig 6.
Yeah.
So a lot of credit to him. So yeah, Riku, VGC, Landon, thank you. You deserve a lot of credit. I don't think he's getting enough attention right now because obviously he's kind of behind the scenes, but yeah, incredible dude too.
So cool.
Yeah.
So cool to hear that, bro. And one of the things I think one of our past conversations, I want to shout this out on the podcast. I mentioned in the chat too. But the last DM me and Patrick had was Patrick donating his Christmas tour prize money to Toys for Tots. So thank you for that. That was so cool. And you raised the donations to that. But before that, I was picking your brain because I saw you running the Sci Spam team. And I was a fan of yours from afar. And I was like, oh wait, I love when good players that like I see you doing well in Limitless consistently. I see those results. I see you pick up size spam archetype. I want to learn whatever I can from someone like you picking up the archetype and what your perspective on that type of archetype is. So like you helped me at that time. Like without even
Yeah.
realizing it, just picking up that team and just like seeing how you were running it. I was like, let me see like I forget what little subtle moveset changes there are. Because there's so many different terrors and movesets on those 6 Pokemon or on that type of archetype you could try out. And it's like so cool to hear now that you're letting someone help you when you've probably helped so many players along your time by building and practicing what you have. So I'm glad to hear you let someone help you.
Yeah,
And to hear it worked out that well is insane too. Shout out
yeah.
Landon.
Yes,
Fuck
shout out
yeah.
Landon. He's awesome. Yeah, but I don't know why I didn't really accept help before then. I think NAIC real or not NAIC Orlando this year really taught me that like help is everything. Because a lot of
Yeah.
like the players that I faced as well, like I knew had like at least some familiarity with what I was running. Like they talked to friends about it, like, and there was just like a lot of communication, like that led to some good day two performances. And I think that's also what helped me in NAIC. I was constantly like just watching side TVs, trying to pick up any information I
Yep.
could, talking to people, just kind of networking around to find information on teams. Even though it's OTS, like there's a little bit of like advantage
Yep.
you can get just by being social, like going, like just being outgoing, talking to people can really like change your runs. And I think it's the same way with team building. It's like if you're willing to like share your team and like have other people like look at it and be like, hey, I think this is bad or I think this could be better has like been a really really like good thing for me, and I think it's a lot of why I had such a good run. So yeah.
It's one of those things too where you may not have the same ideas. Like you might pitch your team to
Mhm.
someone, they might say, "Hey, this isn't great. I don't think this is great," but you do think it's great, and then that actually engages in meaningful conversation, right? So
Yeah.
it's something where you may be like, "Yes, I'm 100% sold on this piece," and someone might be like, "Hey, no, I don't think it's it." Just engaging in that conversation alone. You might keep the piece, you might get rid of the piece, but regardless of what you do, you're gonna understand more of why you want that piece or whatever piece you put in its place on that team. And friends are broken, right? That
Yeah,
has
for
Yeah.
sure.
always been the case when it comes to this game. Even back when before the OTS, you said, talking to people and getting information about others' teams, right? That was massive back in the day, especially before the OTS, because you'd go into the next day and it was whoever had the better friend group that would go into top 8 would tend to have a better, little bit more of an upper hand, right? So obviously less of an impact now, but like you said, those little things, maybe knowing they're a jolly Urshifu or that they have a really bulky, I don't know, a really bulky Terapagos, so to speak. But I think overall friends are broken, and yeah, nothing else to say there.
It paid
Wait,
off.
can I ask? What was the type of support from the American player base you must have been getting in the venue?
That's a good
Because
question.
it must have been insane,
it,
bro.
it was crazy. I was getting DMs from like so many players that like I look up to and like being like, you got this, if you need any help going into like finals, like just reach out. Like it was so cool just seeing so many people like be like have my back and be like rooting for me. I think it's because also like US hasn't taken an internats this season until NAIC. So I think a
Yeah.
lot of them were really, really feeling competitive and like very willing to help. But it was like a really like amazing experience. It felt really surreal, like how much support I got, and it also like made me feel like, despite Aurelian, like I think Aurelian's a better player than me. I really do. But despite like them being a better player than me, I think that they just like I feel like I didn't have that pressure. I felt like I was the favorite, at least of the like people in the like actual convention center. And I think that made it easier to like just play my game and kind of approach the game how I like to. So it was really amazing. Never would have expected that, but it was actually like such a important reason I think of why I did well as well in finals where I didn't feel too much pressure.
That's super cool. That is super cool. I'm curious because you touched on this a little bit, but we've seen this sort of Cali Ice build kind of from the start of Regulation G. Um, Even like before there was actually official tournaments, is kind of like originally from more of like a J Moji's like I think VR tour winner, and that we've seen that kind of being adapted throughout the whole meta. But I'm curious how you felt with this team, and I think we got a question about this. Going into an event where it had been clearly doing well at every event and it's been going to, but it's something that obviously was on people's minds. Curious how you kind of felt, whether you felt like it was something that it was just, I'm going to bring, obviously you had the Rillaboom adaptation, but it was just kind of like, I'm going to go in and outplay, or if you felt like you had some kind of tricks up your sleeve that people didn't really were prepared for.
I think there were a few things that were like not visible on OTS that were kind of tricky about my team, which a lot just
Yeah.
has to do with how I trained it. But going in, the reason I ran Cali Ice is I had laddered multiple like accounts on Showdown up to like top 100. They all had like good GXE, and I constantly was able to pretty much beat any matchup as long as I played well. And that's basically why I wanted to use Cali Ice. In the past, the way I've usually run teams is I think I have a habit of either running like hyper offensive teams, or running like hard trick room or something that's very like kind of polarizing in their matchups. And I got
Dozo Gear,
advice. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Dozo Giri.
Ryan's
Or
favorite.
yeah. Um, this is my first tournament running True Balance, though. This is my first time actually running like a more balancey squad, and that was on the advice of actually Toller Webb. I played Toller, like I said, in my win in Orlando. And like I asked him because I have respect for him, and I like doing this with top players, just like pick their brains. But I asked him like, after not doing what I wanted to at Orlando, I kind of talked to him, and I was like, what do you think I could do to like be a better player? Like, what do you think I could do to take that next step? And he told me, he was like, a lot of new players like you have really good instincts, and are really good at running hyper offensive teams. Like I think I'm very good at making calls and making reads. Um, that is, I think, my best skill. But I think I relied on like hyper offensive teams and just overwhelming play styles to like allow myself to make reads. And Toller gave me a really good bit of advice, which was like, if you go out of your comfort zone and you like try a new style of team, and you try new pieces, and you still try to like maintain that kind of philosophy of like overwhelming your opponent, clicking offensive moves, like just constantly applying pressure to the board state while using pieces that allow you to like make mistakes instead of having to play perfectly to win, would probably like elevate my play. And he was absolutely right. I first time I used like a true balance team was at a local, and it was my first time using Incineroar in an official competition. I ran Incinemungus on like a Fridge Raff like kind of balancy team, and I won that event. I won that local pretty confidently. And then I guess that was the last in-person event I played, but I kept on trying to run Ice Rider balance throughout the format. I felt myself improving in like being able to switch between that like hard reading, like aggressive kind of natural mode that I have as a player, and also like a more balancy, like well adjusted style. And I think that like yeah, I felt really ready to like kind of show off like the skills that I developed in these last few months, trying a new style of play and approaching the game in a way I wasn't comfortable with. And yeah, I think going into NAIC, I felt like I could win against anyone. I feel like I could win any matchup with my team as long as I just like played better. And I think I played better in most of my sets. I think I got lucky. There's a couple like misses that I got and like a couple lucky sets, but I really do feel like I played better in the sets that were like that I won. But yeah, no, I went into this event thinking that I really could win as many games as I could if I just played better than my opponents, and I feel like that rung true. I feel like yeah, I do think I played better. Maybe that's me kind of coping. I know I got pretty lucky at times, but
I don't think
yeah.
people luck
You're
being
playing.
NAIC champion.
You're playing
they-
what 18 rounds of
they-
Pokemon. Luck is going to be a factor at some point, and
Yeah,
you
good
very
point.
clearly were playing better at some point. You won the event at some point.
That's true.
You were
That's
playing
true,
better.
yeah.
I don't think you're coping. Like clearly
Yeah.
at some point you were playing better than your opponents.
Yeah, but that's why I used Ice Rider balance though. Is I just wanted to use a team that I feel like I could win against anything. And in practice, there was no matchup where I had a less than like 60% win rate. My worst matchup was Calm Mind Tarop with Covert Cloak, like that balancy squad. And I only won that like I think 60% of the time in practice. It wasn't too bad. I faced two of them in the tournament. I lost to Antonio, who like it was a really good competitive game three set. I do think Dewabafet actually posted on their YouTube channel. They have a couple of my like sets that were on side TVs if people want to watch, but it was
Amazing,
a super
yeah.
it was a super good competitive set. But I lost in game three, and then I played one day two. I went 2-0. Like I 2-0'd it. But that was just because I don't think they were as good as Antonio. But yeah, I think that was my worst matchup. But other than specifically like Calm Mind, Covert Cloak, Tarop by like really good players, I feel like there was no team that actually felt overwhelming for me to play. So that was really nice going to the event, especially because this format felt really, really like hard to play and polarizing at the beginning. I feel like every matchup was so like one-sided, and felt like, oh, if I face like CSR, I'm just gonna lose with Ice Rider. But I kind of figured out how to build like a team that I felt like could win against anything, and like I said, it worked out pretty well.
That's super cool. And I think you touched on this a little bit, but like about that aggressive play style. So one question we got was that people notice that you tend to lock in your moves very quickly when you're playing
Mhm.
on stream, and so
Yeah.
people are wondering like what, I guess, is that confidence in just like a gut instinct, or is that confidence in just like, oh, I played this matchup like a million times, I kind of know exactly what, what to do in this situation. Like where does that come from?
Or
I
are you
think
like 5 tips ahead at all times?
I was gonna say the only time I really don't lock in my moves fast if I'm surprised. It's like usually I feel like I'm like familiar. Like if I was locking in my moves fast, then like I expected my opponent to do what they did, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, it does.
so yeah, and I think there was a few times where I definitely hesitated on stream where I was caught off guard. But even in some of them, um, I don't think even if they got the read right or the thing right, I don't feel like it was lost immediately. But yeah, I think it's just because I also, like you said, I've played the matchup so many times. I know all of like I've played almost all of these teams, and I feel confident. Like I know my lines, I know how to play them, and even if they have like a name, it doesn't mean that it's a different team necessarily. So yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
All
impressive.
right. Should we talk a little bit now about like some of the key sets that you played? So basically kind of leaving it up to you in terms of like highlighting what were like, I guess, like the hardest sets that you played throughout the weekend, stuff that was kind of notable to you, anything you want to highlight.
Okay. Just quickly like pulling up my rounds.
I think if you scroll up in the chat, right, it should be here.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was just looking at the exact teams as well.
Oh, you played my friend
On
Tarrant and Schilling. Yeah, Schilling was on
yeah,
stream. I knew that one. Oh,
yeah.
and Taylor
Shiliang's actually a really interesting one.
and
I
Blake.
feel
I was
like
gonna ask that one.
okay, so Shiliang, I was lucky enough to watch Justin Tang's match against Taran on side TVs, and I know that both of the tags like to work together on building, and I kind of had like a very confident like I felt very confident into Shiliang's team because I kind of figured out speed interactions from watching side TVs. So during Justin's match against Taran, there's multiple times where I saw a board state with like Incin, Wo-Chien, or Wo-Chien and Kyogre. And I saw the interactions of Incin
Oh,
was faster than Wo-Chien, and then Wo-Chien was faster than Kyogre. So by kind of like looking at that, I kind of knew going in that my Rillaboom was going to outspeed the entire team because, or at least not Incin, but the other two pieces because my Rillaboom hits 115, and I know that if Wo Qian's likely outspeeding Kyogre, and they have Tailwind, Kyogre probably hits like 112 to outspeed CSR and Tailwind, and then they probably just did like one speed stat for Wo Qian to outspeed Kyogre by 1 point to Palm Puff it for Water Spout. So assuming like Instant was Jolly Max, so hit like 123, and then like Kyogre was 112, Wo-Chien was 113. I knew that I could just throw off wood hammers into Kyogre constantly, especially if I could just pressure Terra out on Wo-Chien, because Wo-Chien was like a sitting duck for Calyrex Ice, especially after like
yep,
coachings.
yep.
Yeah.
So Kyogre or Rillaboom was a really important piece because I EV trained my Rillaboom to hit 115 to outspeed Tim and Ursaluna that hits 114. So knowing that was really nice. So that was kind of part of the information gathering of me just like watching other people play on side TVs. But yeah, Shiliang's team, I feel like I had a little bit of an unfair advantage going in because I kind of knew speed stats. But I think all of my matches for the most part were really interesting. Obviously, like I think my last five matches were probably my most like close, most like kind
Yeah.
of back and forth of all of them. Um, I think to highlight a few on day one, I faced Justin Knox. It was one of the few teams that I'd never played before in practice, which was a Volk like it was basically like the traditional like Miraidon team, but the only difference was Volk was in the place of Chi Yu, and Volcaron is really difficult for my version of Ice Horse.
Yeah.
And he absolutely like blew me out of the water, 2-0'd me. But I actually got the chance to reface that matchup against Max Legrand, and ended up 2-0ing him. So That was a really nice feeling. Kind of gave me a lot of confidence going in. I also faced another duplicate team against two friends, which was Blake Silver.
Good friend of the
And
pod.
Yeah, Blake and
Blake's
Kevin.
super nice. Blake and
Yeah.
then who was it? I think
Hey, Billy?
Kevin
it was
Miller, yeah.
Kevin.
Miller,
Yep,
yeah.
it was Kevin.
Yep, another good
Um,
friend of the pod.
and I
Yeah.
kind of took advantage of the fact that I knew they were friends, because I led the exact same thing against them, but I just completely changed like exactly how I played against them because they're running the same team. It was kind of obvious, and I got like I felt like Kevin was gonna like a few times just call me out on things, but I assume him and Blake talked about the matchup because just by kind of making the opposite plays of everything I did against Blake to win against Blake, I ended up beating Kevin in one less game, so that was nice. Um,
That's
but yeah,
very
I think
fun.
a lot of this tournament though is just kind of just generally just balancey kind of matchups. I don't think there was anything really crazy I faced. I think one notable thing I will say is I dodged CSR. I never played one CSR.
Really?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I dodged
That,
CSR. I never played Koraidon either, which I wanted to play Koraidon,
Yeah.
but
I think you'd be okay into Koraidon.
yeah.
yeah.
But I dodged CSR, dodged Koraidon. I had a lot of Zom matchups, which is not really a good matchup for Ice Rider, but never dropped the set against Zom. Yeah, three losses were Miraidon, Harap, and Ice Horse, all of which I was just outplayed on. I was beaten by Burns in a good 3 game set. Same thing with Antonio, 3 game set, and then like I said, absolutely destroyed by Justin Knox. Like cleaned the floor with me. It was really not that close.
Yeah. Makes sense, makes sense. That's crazy that you dodged CSR though,
Yeah.
especially after
Yeah.
LA. That's crazy.
Yeah, I was surprised. I like prepped more against CSR than anything else, like because of
Yeah.
LA. But
Mhm.
yeah,
Right.
I somehow never played a single CSR.
Well,
That's that's
well,
wild.
Yeah.
That's like
Yeah,
when I
that's
brought
the link I
Zashi
was
into
talking
Indy.
about. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
brought
that took
Zashi
me a
into
minute
Indy,
to
didn't
come
play a
to.
Calyrex Ice Rider. I'm like, well. Although that one's a little less crazy because like I don't know how you didn't pull CSR in 18 rounds of the international championships, but
I know. Yeah.
um, that's wild. Honestly, that's I feel like a bit of a testament to this format and how kind of variable it is
yeah.
for from
Yeah.
player to player. Um, and then so you were talking about this a little bit earlier, but how was the prep between like the end of day two into going into finals and like did you
Yeah.
do anything to kind of like prep that matchup the night before? Like how was that?
So I didn't go out. I didn't celebrate. I told all of my friends that were staring the BNB because they were a little upset with me. They were like, "We want to go out, win a party, we want to celebrate finals," but I was like, I don't feel ready to celebrate yet.
Yeah.
Job's not over, so I wanted to keep on prepping. And a lot of my prep actually just involved me doing VOD review on myself. So I just watched my games that were streamed. And also I knew that, like I said, my matches against Antonio Sanchez were on side TV, and so is Daniel Yu. So I knew that like in those 4 matches, there was a chance that Aurelian would be able to see any of them. And I wanted to like try to figure out before I even got to like watching Aurelian's like videos and film, like what Aurelian would expect of me. And in all of my like stream matches before Aurelian, I brought Urshifu to every game. I relied heavily on Urshifu to win me those matches. And I used Urshifu very aggressively alongside Ice Rider. I was very risky with like leaving my Ice Rider up to be KO'd by things if they took the like chance to attack it. Just generally playing very aggressive. So a lot of I think my early prep, at least when it came to like Saturday night, was just me reviewing my own games, taking notes on my own habits and my own like self, trying to figure out like what does Aurelian see as my weaknesses, like what does Aurelian think of me as a player, and how Aurelian approach the matchup. And then once I kind of had an idea of like Aurelian's going to expect me to be aggressive, Aurelian's going to expect me to bring Scarf Aurelian's going to expect me to like just generally play in like the same way I always have, which is aggressive and like generally just kind of like I said, kind of not afraid. Like play a very kind of forward, simple kind of game plan. Nothing really too complicated. And then I watched Aurelian's matches Sunday morning. I noticed I specifically got to watch the match against Burns and then the match against Audie. because they were both running Ice Rider, and I wanted to see what Aurelion like did into Ice Rider, and I noticed that number one, Aurelion was very, very prone to leading Grimmsnarl into every single Ice Rider that they played, and that number two, they really liked to lead Urshifu into Ice Rider, but those Ice Riders, I believe, were both Terra Fire, which kind of like skewed that kind of lead as well, because you can't foul play. You can always foul play Surging Strikes, just knock out the Ice Rider, at least if they don't protect. But if they protect, they're still taking Surging Strikes. So I knew that going in, and I kind of anticipated that Aurelion would bring at least game one Iron Hands Grimmsnarl as the lead, and then would bring Booster Flutter to counter my Scarf Urshifu, and then Trop. And then I thought if I won game one, they would adjust to Grim and Terapagos, which I was correct on that. I was wrong about game one, what they would lead. I was surprised to see them lead Booster Flutter, but it made a lot of sense, and it was probably better than them leading hands into what I led, which was Rillaboom Bolt. Yeah, so generally, just like the way I approached it was first looking at my own my own habits, finding out what Aurelion did against other Ice Rider teams, and just trying to not play in the way that Aurelion would expect me to, which was Urshifu. And it was kind of funny. I feel like the entire finals was kind of played around like a phantom of like Urshifu being in the back. A lot of plays Aurelion made were just very much so focused on Urshifu. Like the Flutter lead at the beginning. I'm almost sure that the reason they led Flutter is because against Antonio, I think in all three of the sets, I either led Fake Out plus Urshifu or Ice Rider and Urshifu. And against the other Trop I played, it did the same thing. So I think they expected that from me. And I think that I even talked to Aurelion about it. Aurelion said to me right when we were talking on stage after the finals, they were like, "Did you adjust to Urshifu in game three? Because they didn't see my fourth." And I was like, "No, I didn't adjust to Urshifu." So just a lot of the plays were just me kind of looking at myself, being self-critical, and understanding where I'm kind of weak, which is I really rely on Urshifu to win me matches, and trying to win without probably my best piece. So yeah, that was kind
Bro,
of how I approached finals.
what's it like being so analytical in your approach to this game? Because I'm more of a vibes guy. So it's like seeing this analytical gameplay approach is so cool to me. Like it's really a different style of play. So like, how do you think you became so analytical with it?
Um, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm kind of vibes based too. Um, but the analytical part was just developed like playing USBA with like Carney Asada Benji. They
Shout
got
out.
me. Yeah, yeah. Shout out to USBA and Team VGC. I don't know if I would have developed these skills without that. But whenever I was like put on USBA for Florida, I was very like I really wanted to prove myself because I was playing with really good players who I respected. I was like the newest player on the team pretty much, and I really studied my opponents. I would scout, I would watch their games, and I got pretty. I ended up with like an okay record. I think I went 4-2 in the season in the
Oh
matches that I
yeah.
was played. But I think I beat players that were definitely better than me. Um, by just studying them, kind of reviewing how they played, their habits. I'm reviewing my own games that were public information, and just kind of just being self-critical because I think VGC is a really social game. Like if somebody's played you, um, and you're not aware of the fact that you have habits and you have like tendencies and you have weaknesses, then a good player is just gonna eat you up. Like they're just gonna destroy you. They're gonna dominate you. And that was something I discovered kind of the hard way at my local scene. Um, the first few times I faced like Brady Smith, for example, Brady like wiped the floor with me, absolutely dominated me. And I remember asking Brady because again, like I said, I like to ask top players their thoughts. I remember Brady telling me one time that in a game three they were facing, it was like one of our most competitive early sets. That like I started like I think selecting in team preview faster than the game before. So they said that they knew I was going to make an adjustment. So they adjusted for my adjustment and absolutely rolled me in game three just based off body language.
Yeah.
So I know that top players are very like very good at kind of smelling fear and like kind of smelling tendencies, and being able to look at you and be like, okay, um, you like doing this, you rely on this, and you do this. And if you're not able to like subvert their expectations, then they'll just walk all over you. So that was kind of yeah, like I said, just facing really good players at locals that were just better than me, and probably I still consider them better than me. I still have more to, I think, prove and show in other tournaments, because this is one really good performance, but I would like to repeat it. Not necessarily win NAIC, but have other good performances. And yeah, I think that just playing with kind of like a very, but trusting yourself, relying on those instincts, but also understanding like, even if you're an instinctual player, everybody is only so layered and only so complex, and we all have our crutches and the things that we rely on to like be good at the game. And understanding that is a really good way to like improve or win matchups, I think, against better players. So yeah, that's why I think I was able to beat Aurelian, because I do think they're a better player than me, but I also think that they probably underestimated that like I wouldn't rely on my best pieces or the things that I perform the best with. Yeah, so
I think that's a really interesting take as well, because when you have time to prep for matchups, right, you get to study your opponent. And a lot of the times, I think it's very easy to fall for the trap of, let's study my opponent. And no one ever really takes the time to look at themselves. Because even when you're prepping for events, it's very easy to fall into, what do I do against Team A, Team B, and Team C? But never once do you really stop and look at, okay, how am I piloting my team, right? You just kind of run your lines and you say, I know my lines into this, this, and this, but you never really stop, and you never really take a time to say, okay, hold up, what am I doing with my team that's actually making things work here, right? You never really take the time to do that. So I think you recognizing that going into finals is massive, right? And like you said, those team tours, and that's something you get out of, like I said, once again, friends are OP, back to the moral of the story here, right? But like you said, you find that out in a team tour, right? You realize that, hey, I need to start taking time to look at myself, and then you apply that to when you actually can apply that in a tournament, because you're not going to be able to do that in between round 12 and round 13. It's just not going to happen,
not at all.
right? But when you have that extra day for finals and you know what you're going up against, you have the time to sit back, reflect, and I think that was really, really well said, and really, 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 really smart on you to be able to realize that, say, hey, I don't need to prep into Aurelian. I need to prep into Aurelian, and I need to make sure I'm aware of what I'm doing, because Aurelian's going to be prepping into me. And I think that was a really, really smart decision.
Yeah, and Aurelian obviously is a competent player and an excellent player.
Absolutely.
And I don't think they probably prepped hard enough into themselves, because I knew there were habits with Aurelian. They all kind of were rung true in finals, which is, like I said, they constantly led Grimmsnarl. They were pretty they were actually pretty willing. Unlike a lot of Tropicos players, they're really willing to tear other things.
Yeah.
Like if you watch game two of our finals set. I hesitate to click Fake Out in a Grimmsnarl right before it Terra Ghosts, because I knew Aurelian was going to Terra Ghost. I look at the sheet, I click it in there because I'm okay with losing a set, like losing a game in a set, because I don't it doesn't bother me. It's still a best of 3. Like, I can just kind of rub it, like just kind of what's the expression, like dust it off your shoulder.
Brush it off,
Brush it off your shoulder. Yeah. I can just brush the losses and best of 3s off the shoulder if I get really good information about where my opponent is mentally in the set. And I think after game 1, where I was getting read after read after read right on Aurelian, making the Fake Out Thunderbolt play into Grimmsnarl, then making the Thunderclap Grassy Glide play on the switch on Grimmsnarl, just constantly making correct read after correct read, I knew Aurelian was going to start playing aggressive. And game 2 kind of rung true to that, and I was able to adjust game 3 and lead the lead that I did, and bait Aurelian into Terra Starstorming for my wide guard, based on the habits they were displaying in game 2. But I think that if Aurelian maybe was more aware of the fact that they, if they're backed into a corner, they kind of play like me, if that makes any sense. They start playing aggressive, they start making reads, they just start trying to get quick advantages. That I don't think they would have panicked like they did. Even in game 3, I've watched that set a few times, just reflecting on mistakes I made.
I was going to say, how awesome it was. Not
Oh,
mistake.
thank you. But yeah, so turn one was Terra Water, Glacial Lance, Fake Out Tarop. Turn two is Protect U-turn, Terra Starstorm, and I guess it would have been turn three. There I already ate a foul play, and then they thunder waved instead of going foul play into foul play. And I was wondering, like, in the time, because I was trying to remember why I didn't Trick Room first and I Glacial Lanced again. And I think I remember thinking at the time, they're still scared of Urshifu. They're not going to foul play because it's a free switch in Urshifu. So I knew they were going to Thunder Wave, and they did Thunder Wave instead of foul playing, expecting the Urshifu switch to catch it because Urshifu's my best switch in other than instant into foul play. So yeah, it was really cool, kind of seeing those habits, like Aurelian constantly wanting to Thunder Wave Urshifus, or kind of anticipating me to play the way I did, was kind of making them panic. And it was really nice to see kind of all of what I expected kind of pan out in finals. I talked to my best friend Logan about most of what happened, what I planned like the night before, and I think at least with game 1 and 2, or game 1 and 3, they went exactly how I kind of anticipated. Game 3, I lost a little harder than I would have wanted. Aurelian did absolutely outplay me and read me a couple times. Like, there were a few plays where I was like, okay, I'm not going to try to overread into them, but yeah, I was really happy. I just think that, yeah, top players are really confident. They think really highly of themselves, and I think it's hard to, like, I mean, I think it was my advantage coming in as a newer player is I don't think that highly of myself yet. Maybe I'll develop an ego eventually, and I'll stop, being self-critical. But yeah, I think that me being self-critical and having imposter syndrome was really good for finals. So yeah,
that's as peak as it gets. Hearing all that high-level analysis, that's awesome.
It's one of those ones, like, you have to be confident, but you also have to still be self-critical, right? Because it's one of those ones where if you let yourself be way too confident, it's never going to work. But if you let yourself be way too self-critical and always doubting yourself and always thinking, oh, why am I here? It's also never going to work, right? So finding that balance, and I think that was, for me especially, that's where I struggle, like finding that balance. So, obviously you found enough of a balance, and hopefully you can continue finding that balance as you continue on here, hopefully approaching Worlds.
Yep. I'm hoping to have some success at Worlds. Worlds is weird. I'm not sure how to prep for it. This is very, like, uncharted territory. So I'm excited, though. I'm looking forward to participating in my first Worlds. I think it'll be a good thing.
I'm glad it's not a new format. Like that.
Yeah.
That's what I was with last season for my first Worlds.
As much as everybody hated that, and as much as I hated that, I thought it was interesting because I've obviously played this game for a while now. I didn't love it. I hated the fact that we really didn't have anything solid to go off of heading into Worlds. However, I think there was a lot more of anticipation because it was everybody. It was a little bit of a different way to prep because everybody, instead of, countering what's popular, everybody kind of just went in and sent what they thought was the best, and as weird as that is, I feel like that was very good from, like, a viewer perspective because the teams weren't, like, standardized or built to counter certain things. It was, we think this group thinks this is the best, this group thinks this is the best, right? And there are tons of different variations. So, like, from an outside perspective, I feel like it was cool, but from I need to prepare for this tournament, I was crying.
So wait, Ryan, now going in, do you think that Patrick's 6 is going to be, like, heavily counted for Worlds? Do you think players are going to try to pick it up, run the same 6? How do you think it's going to work so far away now?
I think there's two mindsets. I think NAIC will be the heavy decider. You're going to look at the North American Internationals and say, when people needed to send their best, this is what people sent. So these teams will be on players' radars. You're also going to want to look at some of the Limitless tours that are happening over the next few months to see if there are any major adaptations as a result of what happened at NAIC. And you're going to need to find a balance point. What that balance point is of how much do you weigh your team into prepping for what was good at NAIC versus prepping what was good on an online tour. Right? Very tough to figure out what weight you want to put on either end. However, in terms of Patrick's team in general, if personally myself, if I'm going to Worlds and I don't have the slightest of game plans into Patrick's team, I'm basically saying I'm tossing my game, right? I'm saying I'm not expecting to win if I don't think I'm gonna play a team very similar, if not just Patrick's team, right? It's going to be on enough players' radars that somebody is going to test it out, maybe try to innovate it slightly, maybe Patrick innovates it slightly, right?
That's what I
And
was gonna ask next.
I need
Yeah.
to have a matchup into that style of team. If I don't, that's on me, and I'm basically saying I'm going to lose some games because of it. So I would expect people to be ready for it, but doesn't mean you can't bring it, because once again, there's only so many restricteds, right? And when you have a core that's been working and obviously you vibe with it, right? There's going to be people that bring it. So if you're ready for it and you're ready for anything, because I play like that. When I played Vancouver last season, my team I don't think had a better than 60% matchup into anything in the format. But I also don't think I had a necessarily negative matchup into anything outside of Sempra into finals, sadly. But like, you know, I felt like I was going in, and if I was in a 55-45 every single time or a 50-50 every single time, I was very comfortable being the player to say I can just come in there and outplay, right? Yeah. But you know, so I think with the Calyrex Ice stuff, a lot of it, like Patrick said earlier, it's you have a chance into a lot of the metagame, if not all of the metagame. So it's going to be a Pokemon that's there, and I think you'd be absolutely dumb, if not stupid, if you're not prepping into it. But doesn't mean you can't run it, because it's still a good team. It's a good team for a reason.
And Patrick, like you put this on the map now. Like it was already on the map. Now, like this 6 with your adaptations.
Mm-hmm.
Early on, I know this is super early. You said you lost, but have you thought about updating a version of this? Have you thought about starting from scratch and going with one of those old archetypes? Like, where are your early thoughts for Worlds?
I think my early thoughts for Worlds, obviously, I'm going to use Ice Rider again. It's the only restrict that I've tested this format. I've done one Limitless tour, so I've played 5 games with Zacian. But other than that little bit of like Zacian playing, I've only tested with Ice Rider. I'm very comfortable with it, and I think it's excellent. I think that it might not be the meta call for Worlds, because I don't know. I'm not very good at making meta calls. I don't think I have that insight, but I do think Ice Rider will be good. I plan on like releasing my paste. Well, it already is released. Brady posted my paste on VGC Corner, so people have access to the paste. So you know, I'm gonna see what people do with that. See what they, you know. What was that?
Oh, I just wrote it on a giant note that said "Beat Ice Rider."
Oh yeah, but I released the paste. There's only a few things there I think that are distinctly interesting. I don't know why, but most Ice Riders do not run a significant amount of bulk. And I only ran up to like 222 attack on my Ice Rider. I ran enough Spadef to survive Life Orb Astral Barrage without Terra. And from Timid Max, not Modest Max, but yeah, from Timid Max. So I ran a significant amount of special bulk, a tiny bit of speed to speed creep other Ice Riders. So I think that's like the major innovation of the team. But right now I'm not playing any Pokemon. I'm kind of taking a break. Just sitting on my victory, reflecting, taking time to think. But I do think, I don't think my team is perfect. I think there are ways to improve it. I'm not sure what to do to improve it yet. But I will work off of this team. I will probably work off these sets, and I will probably stick with the Rain, like core Ice Rider Rain, just because it's what I'm most comfortable with. But I think what the other pieces look like and what sets they're running and what spreads they're running could definitely change. But I think if it isn't broke, don't fix it. I think that if I brought the exact same 6 to Worlds in a couple months, I'm sure it won't be bad. No. Like I don't think the team's gonna be bad. I think it's a very ageless team. It's Ice Rider. There's not really, much bad about it. If people counter team it, their team's probably gonna be bad and do a lot of other things.
Yep.
So yeah, I think that if I don't figure out what to do, I'm just gonna run the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And you'll definitely be one of the top players on everyone's minds heading into Worlds. So
which is I think I think that's the most interesting thing about post NAIC for me is figuring out how to win when people are actually paying attention to you. Because I went through day 2, had a good record throughout most of it, and no one cared. So this time I'm gonna have people actually paying attention to me. So that's a little nerve wracking.
If I check my phone and I'm queued up into Patrick Connors, I am not happy. I'm definitely not happy. And I gotta ask this, but we're close to wrapping up here, but I gotta ask this. There was an awesome reaction in the crowd for the Pelipper reveal in Game 3. I'm curious if you've seen all that love that's been going around on Twitter, and if you heard the reaction in the venue itself, kind of what your thoughts were on that.
Yeah, the noise canceling earphones did not work very well. The audience was way too loud. They were great. Yeah, I was very happy that play popped off as much as it did because I was waiting for the moment. I was waiting for the moment where I was able to get that wide guard up. And I was super happy about that. So yeah, it was amazing. It was really cool. The support's been great. Other than like the few comments were like, good job avoiding paras. It's been really positive. It's been really amazing. I think the Pokemon community as a whole tends to be pretty awesome, pretty welcoming, pretty supporting. And I'm very happy to be a part of it.
Absolutely, yeah.
How do you explain that crowd reaction to your family?
Oh my God. I just explained in like football terms. We're from Jacksonville. They're huge Jags fans, and anytime we have a record above 8 wins, they probably have the same reaction.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's probably what I would compare it to. Just kind of football reaction. They saw I won. They liked that, but yeah, none of them know what's going on, but they were also hyped. They were very happy.
You're like, I just scored a touchdown with the Pelipper hitting wide guard. I swear.
Yeah, basically, it was a last minute Hail Mary. Yeah.
That's so funny. That's so funny. All right. Well, as we're kind of wrapping towards the end here, any last kind of questions, Ryan, Tommy, that I'm missing?
I've got a good one that I always like asking, but Tommy, you got one?
No, I was going to ask about your sports background and your lifting videos, and I like talking about physical health and mental health in the community. And I think you posting those videos, just encouraging more people to go to the gym is awesome. So I wanted to bring that up, and that's part of the reason why I quote tweeted that. Yeah. And I played left tackle growing up for 17 years. From the time I was 5, and then I hurt both my shoulders, so I didn't play in college.
It's always the shoulder injury. Sports. Anybody ever noticed that? It's always the shoulder injury. Well, it's always I was great, and then it's I tore my rotator cuff. I'm from baseball, right? So anytime someone's like, I don't play baseball anymore, it's my rotator cuff. It's always the shoulder injury.
I don't have ligaments in my shoulder anymore. I love football though, and it's like. Again, like just you posting those videos, encouraging more people to go to the gym, talk about physical health, talk about mental health. But you're an animal with the 500 pounds is no joke. Like for people who don't live, that's impressive. Like that's really impressive.
That is very impressive.
Yeah, I haven't max squatted in a while, but I did get 475 for 5 recently, so I definitely think I could do more than 500. I just haven't tried because I don't want to blow out my knees. But my sports background is I grew up playing soccer and baseball because my dad didn't want me to do football until I was older because of brain injuries. I started football my sophomore year of high school. I played guard and tackle, primarily guard. We had a pretty good team. We made state playoffs. I was their starting guard for a while.
Florida's no joke of a state either.
No, Florida's no joke of a state. But I was our captain for our offensive line. I was actually. I had I was a play caller. I actually helped ad lib. I was a weird lineman. I was able to make audibles for our quarterback because I knew the plays better than them. But yeah, I played left guard.
Better than them too, probably.
Yeah, I had to get on to my other linemen because they did not study film. But I played offensive line. I got some college offers, but due to COVID, I didn't want to play. I was kind of depressed at the time. I actually lost a good bit of weight at the time, picked up running, which was a really good, nice outlet until gyms started opening up. Then I bulked up and started weightlifting again, which was great. I did Olympic lifting as well in high school, and I was also a freestyle wrestler. So I wrestled 285. And I won some tournaments doing that, so those are my first tournament wins were wrestling. So yeah.
Crazy. Patrick just killing everything that he
Yeah.
puts his mind to. That is awesome.
Competition's a great outlet. And just talking on mental health, I think competing, just working towards bettering yourself in any capacity is really awesome. Weightlifting's a great way to track progress.
Yeah.
You go in week to week, not week to week, but probably month to month. You can track progress, and it tends to be somewhat linear. Like you'll plateau, you'll have dips and falls, but if you keep putting in the work, you'll get better. And it's a really good way to feel better about yourself and your body and your mind. And it's just a really good stress reliever. I deal with some anxiety myself, and weightlifting is such a good outlet for me. It's a good way for me to decompress and just kind of chill out after a long day. But I think Ryan also had a question. I don't want to yap for too long because I think I've definitely been yapping for a while.
I mean, this
No, we-
is no one's clicking on our podcast. They're clicking on the podcast because you're here. Let's be real. But I think from my end, this is back to Pokemon now. But my general question here is, if you couldn't have brought Ice Rider, or let's just say for whatever reason you showed up, they said you can't lock Ice Rider, what other team do you think you would have seen yourself bringing? Just as a thing. I know it's gonna catch you off guard because I'm sure you've never thought about it, but
I really haven't.
I like tossing
that's
this
a
one out
question I
there.
wasn't ready for. You know what? I really, in a vacuum, I really like Koraidon. I think it kind of sucks in practice, but probably Koraidon. I would have probably ranked Goth Koraidon because I like that team.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah,
cool.
I just don't think it's very good.
No.
I've been proven wrong multiple times. Like, I swore it would get top 8 at NAIC to like my roommates. I was wrong. Oh, I actually thought Ice Rider was going to do kind of bad. Funnily enough, but I still brought it. So
Yeah.
again, I'm not good at meta calls. I can't say I'm good at that.
No, it's good. You knew what's up. I mean, you clearly got the right call. You knew what your team was doing, right? Whether or not you thought the team was, whether or not you thought the Pokemon as a whole was gonna do well, you were definitely believing in your team, and that's at the end of the day, I think the major part there, right? Like I've brought Pokemon to events, and like I brought Zacian to Indy. I said this mon sucks, but maybe this team can cook. And I mean, the team cooked. I just sucked. But like that's besides the point. No, other than that though, I mean, I think that wraps it up here. I don't really want to drag this on too long. Tommy, you got anything? Conk, you got anything?
Oh, I appreciate everything.
Well-
Thank you for your time as always.
Yeah,
And
of course.
yeah.
It was a pleasure.
You want to give any shout outs or anything before we head off? I know we'll link any socials that you want us to below or like in the description and stuff, but any last shout outs?
Just Florida VGC in general. Still getting lots of love from them. If anybody's from Florida and hears this, please come out to locals. They're great. Very welcoming community. It's great practice. We have a lot of really good players here. Definitely an underrated scene, so please come out. And also shout out Landon. He's definitely deserves more love. He's my one person I worked on with this team. He believed in my vision. He believed in me as a team builder. And asked to join up with me on the team. So shout out Landon, Riku VGC on Twitter. I'm sure he's going to have some good limitless results over the next few months as well. You probably get a sneak peek into what I'm running if you see what he's running. So yeah, shout out to him. And like you guys said, friends are OP. They're the best.
Absolutely.
Love it. Well, thank you.
Yeah, I think
so
that's the title of the episode.
Yeah.
I did see that. Yeah.
Well, friends are OP.
Yeah.
Yeah, Patrick, NAIC winner, PackCon / friends are OP. Ryan, you'll make it work for the YouTube algorithm.
Oh,
We gotta
I am
show
gonna
people.
put a picture of Patrick with a speech bubble that says "Friends are OP," and we're gonna call it a day. That's gonna be the thumbnail.
Love it. Love it. Well, as always, thank you everyone for listening. Thanks so much for Patrick for coming on and sharing your experience with us. And that is us. That is it for us this week. Catch us in a couple of weeks, and we'll be reviewing the meta and having a bunch more discussions as leading up to Worlds. So, thanks
Crazy.
everyone.
See you guys.
Love you.